In Boston, Matthew Dickey is always on the lookout for a picture with a story.
What I love about photography is its journey and willingness to lead to a rabbit hole.
And those rabbit holes usually start with a building.
It's like telling those stories about the buildings and the places and how and why cities look the way they do. So it's all a means of photography for that purpose.
Dickey documents his photos and complimentary research on his Instagram under the name Streetscape Curator.
It was a phrase that somebody gave me when they were doing a piece in like 2020, writing about architecture. I kind of think of cities as museums, and you have buildings, you have new pieces that are acquired, other pieces that have been there for a long time. Sometimes there's crazy stories about how places and how things got there. So I kind of see it as a way of documenting a city. Look at this.
We met up with Dickey in Dorchester to see how he gets inspired. This time he'd noticed a style of building that usually isn't found in this part of the city.
Right now the thing that's drawing me to this is, one, it's just a weird shaped mansard roof building. Two, it's got a bright blue color and the shadows are just raking across the facade, which is pretty amazing.
Right down the block, a narrow lane led to another discovery.
Look at that. I have a dream that I would love to just live on a little pedestrian walkway with a house.
That's the one. That could be it.
These are the things that I love on the pedestrian scale, when you could be walking behind a complex of houses and not know that you're going to discover another house behind them.
Even after Dickey posts his pictures and context-filled captions on Instagram, that property might still have more to reveal.
And as I take a photo and share it, somebody else will ping in and be like, my grandmother grew up down that street, blah, 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 stories, stories, stories. Like, well, now I want to know more. And I connect with more and more people.
Story and connection are also guiding principles at the Griffin Museum of Photography in Winchester, especially because billions of pictures are created every day thanks to technology.
What is that image or what that photograph is trying to say? How do we communicate something interesting about that? How do you as a viewer grow from experiencing that photograph?
Krista Dix asks these questions in her work as the Griffin Museum's executive director.
One of the things I love about photography is how each artist approaches utilizing a photograph as a part of a broader vision. So it's not always documentary work. It's not always alternative process work. It could be something in between.
That range of styles is evident in the museum's Spring 2024 exhibition.
Because it's an election year, I wanted to talk about democracy. I wanted to talk about who we are as a people and how we see the world around us. This exhibition, Traces of Existence, is looking at 5 Latin American artists, all looking at migration, at exile, at how they see that transition from their homeland to a new place and a new environment.
It includes work by Boston artist and activist Ileana Doble Hernandez.
I want people to see how I see them, how someone from my background, as a Latina, as an immigrant, as someone who grew up idolizing the United States and the American dream, how it has transformed and how I've learned, so much from coming to the United States.
Dick says pairing photos together adds a new layer of meaning.
You have one image and like, okay, that's interesting, but without context, you really have no reference. But when you add it with a second image, now all of a sudden there's things to talk about. There's similarities, there's differences, there's ideas happening behind the two images that maybe when they were photographed never actually were intended.
And back to Streetscape curator Matthew Dickey, he shares a lot of his photography.
Yeah, he does share a lot of his photography. And Matt also says that his true artistic love is painting, and a lot of the pictures he snaps end up being paintings in his collection. And he jokes that photography is for painters in a hurry.
All right, it's funny. Up next, providing comfort in loss.